There is a place in Japan where the laws of the world are said to no longer apply. A place where screaming into the darkness might not echo back, but answer. A tunnel so feared that even locals refused to speak of it after sunset, and those who ignored the warnings. Some were found, others were never seen again. The Inunaki Tunnel, an abandoned passage swallowed by nature and myth, has become a symbol of something darker than just decay. Unlike many ghost stories, this one blurs the line between folklore and reality, because the Inunaki Tunnel is not just a story, it is a real place, and its history is far more disturbing than fiction. It originates from an old legend tied to the nearby Inunaki village, a settlement said to have vanished under mysterious circumstances. The laws of Japan do not apply here. At first, these accounts were dismissed as imagination, until something happened that changed everything. Real incident, dark history. In the late 1980s, a brutal crime occurred near the area, one that would permanently stain the tunnel's reputation. A young man was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered by a group of individuals. His body was later discovered burned near the site. This was not folklore. This was real. The Inunaki Tunnel is narrow, claustrophobic, suffocating. Its walls are damp and stained, its structure unstable. The air inside feels different, heavier, thicker, as if the tunnel itself resents intrusion. There are no lights, no signs, no indication that anyone should be there at all. Over time, a set of rules began circulating online, instructions for those daring enough to visit. Go at night. Turn off your headlights before entering. Do not stop inside the tunnel. Do not respond if something calls your name. And above all, do not look behind you. These rules spread across forums and social media, turning the tunnel into a rite of passage for thrill seekers. But not everyone returned with just a story. Visitors have reported seeing figures standing at the far end of the tunnel, only for them to vanish when approached. Others claim to have encountered people inside, silent, motionless, who disappear the moment they are acknowledged. Some recordings captured within the tunnel contain unexplained sounds, whispers layered beneath static, footsteps with no visible source, and in some cases, distorted laughter. One of the most chilling reports describes a driver who entered the tunnel alone, only to see someone sitting in the passenger seat when they exited.